I'm Will, this is Sharr, and we're willing to share the truth with you as we do our Black History, amen, our Black History lesson because they're trying to take away Black history here in America, and we decided that we're going to keep it going. So
Yes.
we make sure each week we do a history lesson of a Black person that helped in our civil rights movement. And also, we want to educate America, educate our Black community, and especially educate our young Black men and women and children, and educate our young Black men and women as they go to the voting booths this midterm to give them an idea of education of who they're voting for so they can make the right selection. So tonight we have Claudette Cover that we're going to be teaching on, and then I'm going to be talking about the first in our mini series of candidates running in the midterm, and we're going to start right here in our home state of Ohio. So we're going to turn it over to Sharr, and we're going to hear about Miss Claudette Colvin.
Hi, everybody. As my husband Will already said, welcome to this program and platform. We're glad you are here. We would like to invite your interaction. We would like to have your comments. We just ask that you would please be respectful when you're commenting or when you're sharing. We appreciate that, okay? And so, like Will also just said, we're going to be talking tonight about Claudette Colvin. Claudette Colvin, okay?
And I haven't heard of her until last night when my wife told me that this is who was going to do it on, so I'm interested to hear her story. And a lot of people, I'm sure, don't know her story.
Yes.
So we're interested in hearing her story here. Very interesting.
Well, Will, I'm going to say this before we get started, and that is there is a lot of people who actually fought for civil rights and who actually fought for our freedoms and our liberties and what not have you, and for our justice in this country, Black people. And some of them were not recognized, okay? Some of them were not, I should say, highly recognized as others were. And so we're going to see with Claudette Colvin that she was one of the ones that was kind of overlooked,
Obscure,
in her role that she played in helping to push forward the boycott, boycott down in Alabama. Okay, so Claudette Colvin, born September the 5th, 1939, in Birmingham, Alabama. Her biological parents are C.P. Austin and Mary Jane Austin Gadsden. She was the oldest of 8 sisters. During her early childhood, her adopted parents and biological great aunt and uncle, Q.P. and Mary Ann Colvin, lived in the rural community of Pine Level, Alabama, the same town where Rosa Parks grew up. Claudette attended Spring Hill Baptist Elementary School, then located on Raymer Route number 1. She later moved to Montgomery, Alabama, and lived in an area called King Hill. She attended Booker T. Washington School from 1949 to 1956, and she did not finish her senior year, but later received her GED. She attended the Alabama State Teachers College in Montgomery for 1 year. Growing up in Jim Crow, Montgomery, Claudette Colvin grew up in a poor Black neighborhood in Montgomery, Alabama, and was well accustomed with the Jim Crow laws of the South. As a little girl, she realized things were different for her when her mother took her to a department store and a white boy started staring at her and laughing because she looked different than him. And in response to the boy's display, Colvin put her hands up to his to show him that they both were really the same. Her mother slapped her, accusing her for acting out and touching a white person. From this incident, Colvin picked up quickly that Black people had to be on their best behavior while out in public because of Jim Crow. Now I'm going to stop there, Will, because we know that we are right back where we were in the South with this sitting president in office, who has now helped to push the Project 2025, which entails Jim Crow laws back in the Deep South. And so this is something that Claudette Colvin grew up in Alabama. She grew up with the Jim Crow laws where blacks could not drink out of the same water faucet as whites. She grew up in the under the Jim Crow laws where black people could not go to the same restrooms as white people. So here we are, Will, in 2026, back at square one with the Jim Crow laws in the Deep South. What do you think about that?
Jim Crow too, and it was because our black people and the Democrats have sat idle and was very complacent. The Republicans and Donald Trump and all the others were not playing by the rules, but yet we wanted to stand by idly and, so to speak, preserve democracy. And not saying that they had to break any laws, but you've got to fight fire with fire.
That's right.
Because I believe it was Coretta Scott King that said that you have to continue to fight for freedom.
Yes.
And so now we're in this situation that we are in today.
That's right. That's so true. Yes, and I truly believe that we still, the fight is continuing. It never really went away, right? Mm-hmm. And so now we see the rise of it here in 2026, like I said, under this President Donald Trump, pushing the Project 2025 mandate that Stephen Miller and Robert, I don't know his last name, of the Heritage Foundation have put together. And so it's an attack on African American people. It's an outright attack on black people here in America. And it's coming from our government. It's coming from our sitting president. And it's such a shame. It's coming from those that are behind him, that are pushing wicked ideology. And so we have to stand up. We have to speak out. We have to call our representatives, and we must go and vote in the midterms. Okay. So in school, Claudette Colvin learned about racial inequalities black people in the South face on a regular basis. She attended an all-black school, as Alabama did not desegregate its schools until years after the 1954 Brown versus Board Supreme Court decision. Okay? She was taught about Jim Crow and Black history by her instructors, especially during February, which was the month during which Negro History Week, as it was then known, was celebrated around the country. But Colvin School celebrated Black history the entire month because her teachers felt Black people were absent from history books. Her personal heroes were Harriet Tubman and also Sojourner Truth. And we just want to stop for a minute and say hi to everybody. Thanks for joining us. ACO Dicey or ACO Dicelvin. I'm not really sure how that's pronounced, so forgive me if I didn't pronounce it right. Okay. So during Colvin's encounter with refusing to give up her seat, and we're going to get to that, on the city bus to a white passenger, she stated that it was her constitutional right and that she was not breaking any laws. Okay, so here Colvin was a 15-year-old young girl that had went and got on a city bus with a couple of her friends after school and was going home, was getting ready to ride home. But because of the laws, the Jim Crow laws at that time, blacks were not allowed to ride in the front of the bus. They were actually told to go to the back of the bus when they got on the city buses. And so with Colvin, she sat down on a seat in the front of the bus. And when a white passenger came on the bus driver asked her to get up and give the white passenger her seat, and she refused to do so. Okay. And so she claimed that it was her constitutional right for her to be able to sit really wherever she wanted to sit, even though the Jim Crow laws were in place at that time. Okay. So I'm just going to continue to read. And I'm missing a page here and I don't know why. But anyway, she said that she was not breaking any laws by sitting in the seat where she was. And after stating this to a traffic officer who the bus driver got involved with, the matter and Colvin's resolve to stay put in the seat where she was, 2 police officers got on the bus and instructed Colvin to get up out of her seat and give her seat to the white individual that had just got on the bus. She later said, I can quote, I could not move because history had me glued to the seat and Sojourner Truth's hands were pushing me down on one shoulder and Harriet Tubman's hands were pushing me down on another shoulder. Okay, that's a very powerful statement that Miss Claudette Colvin made, Will, to say that she it was like she was stuck in her seat. And she felt that the ancestors, those that had fought for freedoms before her, she felt that Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman, 2 of the people that she claimed as her heroes, was holding her shoulders down where she could not move to get up out of that seat and give that seat to a white person. Mm-hmm. So what was she in turn doing? She was standing on what the ancestors had fought previously for. During the time of slavery, Harriet Tubman had the Underground Railroad. We talk about Sojourner Truth and how Sojourner Truth was also pushing for civil rights and liberties and women's rights and whatnot have you in this country. And so now here we have a 15-year-old young Black girl that because she had learned of the history of her ancestors that took a stand, she refused to give up her seat on that bus. And this is way before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white person on the bus, okay? She said it was then the police officers each grabbed one of her arms. They kicked her, threw her books from her lap, and manhandled her off the bus. They shoved her into their police car, handcuffed her through the windows, and took her off to jail. Let me say this. This is something that's been going on too in America for the longest, and that is some officers overstepping their authority and their power in this country when it comes to Black people. We just saw a young Black woman walking down the street that was having some mental meltdown, possibly, I don't know. It's alleged that she was having a mental meltdown, but I guess the officers thought that she was a person of interest in some type of crime that happened. Now, instead of the officers getting out the car, to ask her some questions, where she was coming from, where was she headed, and whatnot have you, one thing led to another, where one of the officers, which was white, ended up throwing her to the ground and ended up punching her over 10 times in her face, breaking her nose, possibly giving her a concussion. And she had black eyes, bruised all over her face, mouth, blood coming from her body from him hitting her over 10 times. Okay, so he overstepped his boundaries. He used excessive force. And that's something that's been pushed on Black people since the eons of time. During slavery, what did they do? They lynched our Black people. What else did they do? They beat our Black people. They raped our Black women. They buckwhipped the men. Okay? All of these atrocities they did to Black people. And this young 15-year-old girl that refused to give up her seat on the city bus to a white person was also beaten and mishandled and kicked. Okay? Because she wouldn't give up her seat. Now, we don't believe that all police officers are hateful or hate Black people or have it in their hearts to do Black people wrong. We don't believe that. We do believe that there is evil in every race of people. Okay, no matter the color, no matter the creed, no matter the occupation, there is evil in every group of people. Okay, and so for them to do this to this young girl, 15 years old, I couldn't even imagine. The thought and the things that was going through her head, even though she knew she was standing for something that was so important, it was more important than her you know, I would say her ego, or it was more important than her just thinking about herself. Okay? And as we read, we'll see why it was so important. So it says that she was charged with violating segregation laws, disturbing the peace, and assaulting the arresting officers despite going limp when they dragged her off the bus. So these are the charges that she was charged with. The news of Claudette Colvin's arrest spread swiftly throughout Montgomery's Black community. Attorney Fred Gray argued to represent her, believing her case to be an opportunity to challenge Montgomery and Alabama's segregation status on constitutional grounds. At trial, the officers told the juvenile court that Claudette insisted she was colored and just as good as whites. Claudette was convicted on all counts and declared a ward of the state and placed on indefinite probation pending good behavior. Okay? So we're going to stop there and see what you want to say about that, Will. A 15-year-old girl here charged with all these different charges, saying that she was disturbing the peace, assaulting the arresting officers, charged with violating segregation laws, and all the rest that they charged this young lady with, this 15-year-old teenager with. And then not only that, she was declared a ward of the state and placed on indefinite probation pending good behavior. That was a little overreach to me. Okay, I don't know about you, but it was overreach. But what the courts and the police officers did and said, okay?
Yeah, 15-year-old, you can't imagine the mind not completely developed yet.
Yes.
You have to go through that. I know, you can think back when we were all 15 years old, where we were in that state of mind,
Exactly.
where we were in life. And to have all that trauma to come up against her at that time and still be able to go on and accomplish what she did in life is really amazing.
Yes. Thank you, Will. Well said. So it says that she never had any other arrests. However, as NPR reported in 2021, she never received official notice that she had completed probation, and her family said they feared she could be arrested for any reason. First of all, they should have never gave her that long of probation, okay? Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, it was just an overreach with the court's decision on the accusations. Of course, we didn't hear her side of the story, but they told the story of the two arresting officers. Mm-hmm. And so it's a shame that a 15-year-old girl had to experience this, had to experience going to jail, had to experience being taken away from her home, from her adopted parents, her aunt, and what not have you, and then placed in a juvenile facility, and then carry that burden of having to do probation almost for the rest of her life, pretty much. Okay? It says at age 82 in October 2021, Colvin asked the juvenile court to expunge her record at the age of 82 years old, explaining that she no longer wanted to be considered a juvenile delinquent. Her request was granted in December, and her juvenile arrest record was expunged. She sought to have her name cleared to show the generation growing up now that progress is possible and things do get better, Colvin said. It will inspire them to make the world a better place. Her actions and outrageous conviction galvanized Montgomery's Black community. Fred Gray credited Colvin with helping to ignite the Montgomery bus boycott, telling the Washington Post that Claudette gave all of us the moral courage to do what we did. On February 1st, 1956, Fred Gray and Charles D. Langford filed Browder versus Gale, a federal lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of segregation statutes in the city of Montgomery. Claudette and the other three named plaintiffs, Aurelia Browder, Mary Louise Smith, and Susie McDonald were all women arrested between March and October 1955 for refusing to give up their seats on city buses to white passengers. Again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to read what Fred Gray credited Colvin. He said, it says Fred Gray credited Colvin with helping to ignite the Montgomery bus boycott, telling the Washington Post that Claudette gave all of US the moral courage to do what we did. So one teenager, ignited a fire in the hearts of many Black people to start the bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. Okay? And this is why I say when we do our program that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter your age. You know, if you're going to stand for something, if you're going to stand for justice, if you're going to stand for equality, stand up and hold your head high. Okay? In standing. And this is what Claudette Colvin did. She didn't back down. Okay. Yes, she had to go through some things. And we all have to go through some things, Will. When we're standing up for what's right, when we're standing up for what's true, when we're standing for justice and equality. Okay. We are going to face some things, but never, ever let fear be your future or cause you to back away or back down. Will, you got something you want to say?
No, I agree, concur.
Okay. So in May, the lawsuit alleged that segregation statutes violated the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which guarantees equal protection under the law, and called for an injunction barring city officials from enforcing the segregation statutes. This is what she encountered, and what she went through was worth all of this. Okay? Because these two gentlemen, these two attorneys got a chance to stand up in the court of law and to bring in the 14th Amendment to get the segregation laws of Black people being able to ride on the bus and sit wherever they wanted to sit on the bus. They were able to use that in a court of law and say it was wrong. It's wrong how they were being treated with the Jim Crow laws of saying they could not get on the bus and ride, in the front seats of the bus. So just that one young 15-year-old girl, Claudette Colvin, was able to change that narrative of that Jim Crow law. Okay? And the other three women too that were discriminated against. So on May 11, 1956, a 3-judge district court convened to hear the case. Each of the plaintiffs who had suffered humiliation and arrests for violating the segregation law described that they had ridden city buses multiple times daily before the start of the bus protests, but willingly joined with others in Montgomery's Black community to stop riding buses because we were treated wrong, dirty, and just plain nasty. We haven't changed our ideas about segregation. It has been in me ever since I was born, Claudette Colvin told the court. Our leaders are just we ourselves. The federal district court on June 4th, 1956 struck down Montgomery's segregated buses as illegal. But the city refused to integrate and instead launched an appeal. The Supreme Court upheld the ruling on November 13th, 1956. 5,000 white people attended a Ku Klux Klan rally in Montgomery to protest the decision and burned a 40-foot cross outside city limits off Old Selma Road. Will, what would you like to say in that?
It shows the attitude and the mind of the people in that same spirit. It's a spirit, and that same spirit is today.
Yes, exactly. I shared before, and I believe in our very first podcast and our very first platform, how that my first experience was when I was young. First of all, when they were segregating or desegregating the schools, and how I was a young girl at the time, and my oldest brothers and sisters were being sent to an all white rural area, um, in a high school there, and how that when they got on the bus, all you could see was young white people coming out of the woodworks, if you want to say the woodworks, coming down the street with bottles in their hand, rocks in their hand, and they were throwing bottles and rocks and things at the bus where my brothers and sisters were on. And that was my first time ever. I think I was about six or seven. I know I was in elementary school, the start of like either kindergarten. And I remember that happening in my mind. I was just thinking, what is going on? What is all of this about? You know, being young, you don't understand racism. Racism is something that's taught in the home. Hatred is something against others is taught in the home. And so my other experience that I had is that my dad and my mom moved us out of an all black community, okay, where we lived in Michigan, and they moved us up to a all white country, rural community. And so when we moved out there, we had white people that seemed like they liked us at first, but then the longer we stayed, we saw their true colors. So they began to ride by our home and say, you know, use the N word and tell us to go home and get out of here. And we don't want y'all here. And then the other thing that we had was we had a cross bird on our lawn while we were sleeping. And we woke up and there was this cross somebody put in our yard and they started it on fire. So yeah, those things when we went to school, because it was an all white school and we were the only black family living in that area, we were called out of our name. We were called the N word over and over and over again. We had to fight with the people, the young people that were there in the high school because of them, you know, trying to make us feel less than. And so those things are something that I experienced personally, firsthand. So I want to say hi to that classic car guy, and let's see if we got anybody else. He said, how's my young sister and brother doing today? We are blessed. Praise God. How are you? Welcome to this show and this program. All right, let's move on. It says that the Montgomery Board of Commissioners on December 18th released an emphatic statement declaring that they would forever stand like a rock against social equality, intermarriages, and mixing of the races in the schools. The Supreme Court ended the city's appeals 2 days later and ordered the immediate implementation of integration under Browder versus Gale. On December 21st, 1956, a racial segregation on public transportation in Montgomery ended. EJI honored Ms. Colvin in 2018 at the opening of the legacy sites in Montgomery. She posed with Mary Louise Smith, another plaintiff in Browder versus Gale. When it comes to justice, there is no easy way to get it. You can't sugarcoat it, Colvin told her biographer. You have to take a stand and say, this is not right. Claudette Colvin, at 86 years old, passed away on a Tuesday while in hospice care in Texas. She played a pivotal role in ending racial segregation in America, and we honor her legacy of courage and sacrifice. So at this time, we just want to give Claudette Colvin, a civil rights fighter at 15 years old, we want to give her a round of applause. Thank you, Claudette Colvin, for your sacrifice. And so I'm going to turn it to Will.
Why did they pick her, Rosa Parks, over her? And several reasons. One was because at the time that this happened with her on the bus, that she was pregnant, 15-year-old pregnant,
yes,
unwed mother. And we don't have the details of how she got pregnant, what happened to her. But the civil rights activists felt that Rosa Parks would be a better representative because she was older. Mm-hmm. She had a job. Also, she was, and this is a factor, she was more light-skinned than Claudette Colvin. So they felt that she would be a better face to do the civil rights movement on,
Yes.
because they felt that if they put Claudette Colvin up there, number one, at her age 15, she wouldn't be able to handle all the things that was going on around her, and that it would involve with her being the face of the Montgomery bus boycott. And number two is, like I said, because she was light skinned.
Yes.
And Rosa Parks, and she was dark skinned, so they felt like she would be better, and also that the opposition to the civil rights would really make a heyday out of the fact that she was pregnant. So, but yes, she was the first one, and those four ladies were the ones that went through it too, and it could have very well have been them.
That's right.
We would be talking about instead of Rosa Parks.
That's a very good point that you brought out there. And it's really sad how that a lot of times we look at each other. I'm talking about Black people, how we look at each other and think that because somebody is light skinned or a little better looking, that they should get the credit of a work that this young girl, 15 years old, put in. You know, she stood up. She had it in her heart to stand up for justice and to stand up for against the segregation that was taking place in the South and the Jim Crow laws. And so we need to learn how to support each other, Black people, okay? We don't need to tear each other down, and you see it all the time, and that's something that is very, very saddening when you see it on YouTube, when you see it on these social media websites, how Black people, we consistently tear down one another. When we really need to come together in unity, especially during a time like this, when we're being attacked on every side, from this administration, from this president, from those that are pushing this white ideology, white nationalism, Ku Klux Klan, Project 2025, white evangelist, so-called Christian ideology. We need to stand up and stand together. We're stronger together than we are apart. Okay? Are we going to agree on everything? No, we're not. But that doesn't mean that we need to put, throw each other under the bus. That doesn't mean that we need to cut each other down so that other people can hear us and the way we talk about each other and whatnot have you. You don't see a lot of the other races doing that to one another. You don't see the Asians doing that to each other up on Facebook, up on TikTok, up on social media, where they're cutting down each other. We have to stop that. It's time to come together, and it's time to stand up. If we're going to see a change, and if we're going to try to take this, our democracy back where it needs to be, we need to stand together. Okay? So I'm going to turn it over to Will. Right now, we're going to have our quotes and our 3 things to remember. And I'm going to do the 3 things to remember first, and we'll have Will read some of this too. The first thing to remember is, just because you're young and you make a mistake, doesn't mean that injustices doesn't affect you. Use your youth to help change the narrative, okay? And this is something that we got from Claudette, okay? She was 15 years old. She was pregnant, and like my husband brought out, like Will brought out, we don't know how or what happened as far as with her getting pregnant. But yet and still, she had a mind to stand up against injustices at 15 years old. That takes courage. That takes strength, okay? To want to see change, and you're 15 years old on a bus, and here she is getting beat down by police officers because she wouldn't get up and give up her seat. Don't let anybody tell you that you're too young to make a difference, okay? And so number 2 is, even though you are looked over and someone else gets the credit, stay focused on the bigger picture, okay? So sometimes, yes, if you go to church, you know what this is about, because a lot of people in church do get looked over. The people that's working in the background get looked over a lot. Ella Baker was one that felt like she was getting looked over, and we taught on her a couple of weeks ago, okay? And yes, sometimes we will get looked over, but you know what? We got to remember, it's a bigger picture. It's more than just what it is, okay, and what we see. And if we continue to do our part, we will see the changes that's going to happen. And this is exactly the mindset that Claudette Colvin had. She was determined to see change happen, just like her she-rose, Harriet Tubman, is Sojourner Truth. Okay? So the third one, Will's going to read.
It says, stand on what you know is right, even if the circumstances surrounding what you believe to be true say differently.
Yeah, so stand up, brothers and sisters. Speak out, brothers and sisters. Go and vote, brothers and sisters, okay? Let's make this change together. Let's make it happen together. Okay, together we stand and divided we fall. So let's make it happen together. So the quotes today, coming from Claudette Colvin, these are her quotes. Quote, she says, Rosa Parks wasn't the first one to rebel against the segregated seats. I was the first one, unquote. The second one, Claudette Colvin said, quote, when you've been abused daily and you see people humiliated and harassed, you just get tired of it, unquote. And the third one, Will's going to read.
She says, being dragged off that bus was worth it. Just to see Barack Obama become president, because so many others gave their lives and didn't get to see it. And I thank God for letting me see it.
Yes, yes, yes. So it was the bigger picture. She realized that it wasn't about her, you know. And when we realize that it's not about just any of us, it's about all of us. And that's what we have to remember, okay? So back to Will.
Okay.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Sharr. We're going to talk about the midterms coming up, and the first state we're going to deal with is our home state here in Ohio, as we have the midterms in May, and so we have the nominations set. And I want to, first of all, say that this state has been under Republican control for almost 16 years. And you hear the Republicans coming out with the statements that we've got to do things better. We got to do things differently. Things are broke. Well, y'all broke it.
That's right.
So it's time for a change.
Yes.
First of all, we want to give a shout out Joyce Beatty, our Congresswoman. She needs your vote in November to keep her seat. Of course, just recently, Miss Beatty won the lawsuit to get that nasty name off the building of the
Kennedy Center.
Kennedy Center.
Yes.
And she did a lawsuit while others was stating that he thought that he could just throw his name up there and nothing happened. Joyce Beatty fought.
Yes.
She set the lawsuit, and a black lady defeated him. And he has to take that name off, and it was only right.
Yes,
because
that's right.
Because Congress controls that, not him. So we thank Joyce Beatty for fighting for us, and that's what she has continued to do. So we ask that you remember her. She's running. So that district that she's in, she's the one that we want to consider putting your vote in and should vote for.
Yes.
We have a Senate race. Sherrod Brown is the Democratic nominee. He was defeated 2 years ago by Bernie Moreno, who was just a Trump stooge. And so now I think people are understanding that that was a mistake. We have another Trump stooge in John Husted that took another Trump stooge, J.D. Vance's place. And all of them are for Donald Trump and his policies, his corruption and his criminality. It's been known that John Husted took money from an Epstein donor, and he blocked to have the Epstein files closed and released. So he's supporting the pedophiles, and so he has done nothing to help the middle class or the poor Ohioans. He claims that he passed the tax cut. Well, the tax cut was for the rich.
That's right.
Okay, he claimed he helped Ohio. He didn't help middle class Ohioans. He passed that big ugly bill that was for the rich that cut Medicare and Medicaid. They have no plan. There's thousands of people that are off the Affordable Care Act. So he did nothing. He's lying. Sherrod Brown, even though he's been there for 38 years, some of the things they said about him wasn't true, but he did fight for the people.
Yes.
He fought for and is going to fight for lower taxes
That's right.
for the middle class. He's going to fight for Medicare, Medicaid, and he's going to fight for what's right. So we need to get Sherrod Brown back in office. So also for governor, we have Amy Acton, governor, going up against Vivek Ramaswamy. And I'm going to talk more about Vivek because he's a liar.
That's right.
He stood up there and talked about it again, the audacity to have a commercial to say that he's for the victims of sex trafficking when he is endorsed by an alleged
That's
pedophile.
right. Wow.
But he has stayed silent on having the Epstein files released. And also, he is an enemy of the black people. He wants the only HBCU college closed. And recently, if y'all missed this, this is what he said.
That's
A black
right.
baby is safer on the streets of Chicago than in a black woman. He's downgrading
Wow.
the black woman. He's downgrading black people, and he's done that. And he is not a friend of black people.
That's right.
He does not like black people, and he will not be for the black people. So the black people in Ohio definitely should not vote for him.
That's right.
And Amy Acton is the one that's going to make the change here in Ohio.
Yes.
She's saying she's against the billionaires. She's going to fight corruption. She's going to fight for Medicaid and Medicare. And hopefully she will be a voice of the people and hear the people. And it's the change that we need in Ohio. So Amy Acton. You look at the race for Secretary of State, Lisa Russo. Her or the one that's going against her, I believe is Robert Sprague. He is up there along with LaRose,
Yes.
who sold our identification to Donald Trump. And he will continue that. He's trying. He's saying he's going to change. The elections are secure. There's no problem with that. He wants to change it to be in favor for Republicans. That's not what democracy is. People should have a right,
That's right.
to a fair election. And he would not be. So Lisa Russo is the one that she has fought against that. She's a lawmaker, I believe, here, and she has already put a law up saying to stop selling our identification to Donald Trump. And so as Secretary of State, she'd be able to enforce that. So that's when you go into the voting booth, that's what you have to think about. We have some others here. Seth Walsh is for treasurer. And then the one, John Coolidge, for attorney general. I want to speak of that because the previous attorney general, we had Dave Yost, was crooked.
Yes.
He was not for black people. The criminals, he was in charge of investigating police shootings, did not lift one finger to help the shootings of innocent black people.
That's fine.
He stood up for big businesses and big corporations.
Yes.
He wanted to, the ones that were offended, that were domestically, sexually, or I should say, abused by Robert Strauss, that case. He wanted to dismiss some of those cases because some of his big business people wanted him to do that. So he came out vehemently. He wasn't for the people. He's for big business. He's for the billionaires. He's definitely wasn't for black people. So we need someone in there that's going to be fair, that's going to investigate these unwarranted, unjustified shootings of black people and of people of all colors, but especially of black people. And we did not have that in Dave Yost, but we can have that in Mr. John Coolidge for Attorney General. So those are the candidates when you go into the voting booth. Those are some of the history on them when you go in, especially black people.
Yes.
You need to know the Republicans are not for you. They will lie, they will cheat, and they'll say they're going to do this, and once they get in, it's going to be the same old thing. There's so much corruption under this Republican governor, under this Republican assembly. We're talking about Larry Householder. We're thinking about all the corruption. Now they're talking about the fraud with Medicaid and Medicare. We need a change.
Yes.
We need a change. So when you go into the voting booth, remember all that. Okay? We're not endorsing anybody. We're just giving you the facts.
That's right.
Of who's for the black people, who's more for the black community, and who's against it. Okay? Well, that concludes our show this week. Thank you for joining Will and Share in the Face of Truth. We'll be back next week with another history lesson and another information about the midterms and also any news for our black community.
Yes.
That affects the black community. Don't forget Sunday on Facebook, True Apostolic Holiness Church, our service at 11:30. And we want you to join us there. And then next Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Fire for Jesus, our Bible study. We are in Psalms, the 11th through 15th division. And then next Thursday here at YouTube, Share John's in the Face of Truth. So until next time for Share, I'm Will. This is Will and Share in the Face of Truth. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
Let's go. Midterms in November. Vote blue. Thank y'all for coming.